it's me, Steven the Intern, Deadpoolhead 888, and this is episode 1 of the Intern's Oddities, Kuchisake-Onna, and today we're going to be talking about the slit-mouthed woman. Now, for starters, Kuchisake-Onna is known as the slit-mouthed woman in English, and Kuchi means mouth, and sake means tear or rip, while Onna is the part that means woman, which is how they came up with Kuchisake-Onna. Now, there are many variations of the stories as to why she has a slit mouth, and one of the most popular is that it was because she got mutilated by an angry husband samurai, well, her angry husband who happened to be a samurai, after she cheated on him. And some stories claim that she got attacked because she cheated on her husband, and he wasn't very happy about that. So he's like, if I carve up your face, no one else is going to want you. No one's going to care about you if you get a face carved up like that. Now, another story claims that there are actually 3 different Kuchisake-Onna. The oldest sister had failed plastic surgery, which resulted in her mouth being ripped apart. The middle sister was brutally injured in an automobile accident, which left her mouth torn. And then the youngest sister lost her mind, presumably after watching what happened to her other sisters, and then she carved up her mouth all by herself, on her own. Maybe because she wanted to feel like her sisters. I'm not really sure. I'm just guessing there. It was a long time ago, so there's not really anyone to ask. But regardless of which story is the most accurate, or if it's all just an urban legend, regardless, it all goes without saying that she is not very happy about having her mouth, ripped apart and torn open like it is. Her appearance seems to be very consistent across sightings, describing her as a young woman in her 20s, around 155 centimeters tall, but sometimes is said to be over 2 meters tall. She is wearing a surgical mask, like everyone was wearing during the pandemic. I'm trying to be careful of my wording, but if you know what I mean, I think you do. Like the ones that everyone had to wear to protect the other people from their germs. And I would like to mention that in Japan, it's very common for them to wear surgical masks like that because of SARS and other, everyone there is, they get a lot of allergies. So that's why they say that she has the mask to hide her face, and it's actually more scary for them because a lot of people over there actually do wear masks. Now, she also has slanted eyes and a cat-like voice, most often seen wearing a red coat so that she can easily hide the sickle and it won't stand out when she gets covered in the blood of her victims. In Edogawa, it is said that she has a red umbrella which lets her fly like Mary Poppins. The British super nanny or whatever. So, in Tamagawa, hold on one second. In Tamagawa, she is said to have a slovenly or dirty appearance, and in Hachiochi, she is known for wearing a kimono with sunglasses. In Okayama, she is said to carry around a comb made from Japanese boxwood, as well as her sickle she is universally known to carry. These are just a few variations on her appearance in different areas of Tokyo and Japan at large. Now, supposedly, she can also run really fast, like the Flash or something. They say she can run 100 meters in 3 seconds. And she is said to even be able to outrun a police bike, like a motorbike. So she's pretty fast. Her victim of choice is typically young children whom she will approach and ask them if she's pretty. She generally stabs them regardless of their answer. In several other versions, she is known to simply eat passerby or spirit them away. Another version has her ask if you want to eat yogurt. I'm not sure what that's about, but if you say no, she'll eat you instead. So, maybe just eat some yogurt with Kuchisake-Onna, you know? If it'll save your life, maybe you should eat yogurt. Even if you're lactose intolerant, like our buddy Spider, you know? If it came down to it, I think he would be willing to eat some yogurt to avoid getting, his face slit open. We'll have to ask him sometime. Now, regardless, in several other versions, she will do that, or she may just tap you on the shoulder and kill you when you turn around. So the only way you can avoid that is if she taps you on the left shoulder, you have to turn around to the right, and if she taps you on the right shoulder, you gotta turn around to the left. And then it'll confuse her just long enough so that you can run away. Now, because of the stories of her sisters, she is often said to be a big fan of the number 3, where she is most likely to show up in places with the number 3 in the name. She has also been known to frequent graveyards and old churches. She hates pomade, which is a type of hair wax, and the reason she hates this is supposedly because the plastic surgeon was wearing far too much of this pomade hair wax during her operation. She is also said to be a big fan of bekoame, which is a type of hard candy, and she would be engrossed at the sight of it, much like spelling salt or sugar for a fairy, because they have to bend down and count all the grains. So she would be engrossed in the candy, much like a fairy would be with salt or sugar or something like that. The easiest way to avoid being killed by her is that when she asks if she's pretty, you just give her a non-committal answer and say, you're average looking, you know? And she gets confused, which will give you a chance to escape. They say she also has a strong dislike of dogs, so you may be able to escape her by warning her that a dog is coming. She won't attack people with O-type blood or people above the second floor of a building. So, I don't know, maybe she's afraid of heights? She also seems to dislike record or cosmetic shops, refusing to chase people into these types of stores. And she is actually so popular in Japan that they've been adding to her story for years, but the original stories seem to date back to spring and summer of 1979 Japan, inspiring fear in students nationwide, and it became such a big deal that police cars were sent out on patrols and groups even formed town watches to make sure the kids would get home safely. On June 21st, 1979, a 25-year-old woman in Himeji City dressed up as Kuchisake-Onna. Uh-oh, this isn't going to end well, is it? And then she walked around with a knife as a joke. She was basically cosplaying as Kuchisake-Onna. But she was eventually arrested under the Swords and Firearms Control Law, and nobody was harmed during her joke. In the 90s, with news of plastic surgery and medical errors on the rise in the media, people once again started the rumors of Kuchisake-Onna and her own medical mishaps. Because it had died down for a while before that, but then in the 90s it picked up again. Now, it is said the story actually originated in Gifu Prefecture in December of 1978, though some claim it was actually in Ichi Prefecture. The first time she was mentioned by the press was in the Gifu Himeji newspaper on January 26, 1979. During this time, wealthy families were able to send their children to night cram schools to help secure the future, but poor families told their children about Kuchisake-Onna to make them give up on their dreams of attending such expensive cram schools. But, as a result, the kids became so frightened that the story spread to other parts of the country, thus allowing it to become a famous urban legend. So, for my part of the country, it sounds kind of like it would be similar to the boogeyman where I'm from. They used to tell kids about the boogeyman to, make them go to bed on time or whatever they needed them to do. They would warn them about the boogeyman, if you've heard of that one. Now, in July of 2012, so a bit more, further along the timeline, there was an empty store in the Yanagase shopping district in Gifu City that opened a limited time haunted house featuring Kuchisake-Onna where they could chase her through the mansion as she abducted a little boy, and it was actually so popular that it received attention from around the country and sparked a revival in the town, with many people praising the smart usage of the legend. You gotta make money somehow, right? Gotta make money however you can in this economy. So some people have managed to trace her origins back even further. Himitsu Hayaka was a book written by Sario Inusui, and it's speculated that the actual basis for Kuchisake-Onna was a real woman named Atsuya who lived in the Shiga prefecture during the Meiji era. Rumors claim she would walk around late at night holding a straw doll in one hand and carrying a carrot in her mouth, making it look like a torn mouth in the darkness when people witnessed her. A long time passed, allowing the rumors to simmer and incubate. They got further and further along, you know. So they later returned in Gifu Prefecture in 1978 as Kuchisake-Onna. There were rumors of Kuchisake-Onna in the Edo period with a kitsune who would turn into a slit-mouthed woman. So before we go any further, I wanted to say about the rumors in the Gifu Prefecture when they came back after all that time bubbling and, being gone for so long but still being talked about. It's basically like a big giant game of telephone. You say one thing at the beginning like, I like popcorn, and then, people mess it up a little bit and then mess it up a little bit as it goes on and further. And, by the time you get to the end, it's like, I like cheese pizza and Doritos, and it's like completely changed from the original thing. So it's like a big game of telephone. Now, to continue about the kitsune story. So, there was a young man in his 20s named Kosuke who worked at a shop called Daikakuya in Matogi, Kucho, Edo, and being a new employee, he was asked to run an errand in present-day Shinjuku. Okay, that sounds common enough. All he had to do was deliver a letter and wait for the reply, but it took so long to receive the reply that the sun was setting by the time he returned back to home to the store. So it was getting dark out, and it had also started to rain, so he pulled out his umbrella, lit a lantern, and put the letter into his pocket as he began his walk home. Soon, Kosuke felt a presence and looked up to see a young woman soaked and running along the street, which scared him, so he started running, yet he felt compelled to call out to her, which would soon turn out to be a mistake. He called out to the woman and offered to share his umbrella with her. She then turned around, and he screamed and fell backwards upon realizing that her mouth was cut from ear to ear, like the Joker. You know how I got these scars? And she had fangs jutting out from her mouth, and her eyes sparkled upon seeing him. Kosuke was worried about returning to the shop late, and he ended up being carried back. It was as though he had aged all at once. His teeth fell out, and his face grew old. Without saying another word, he took his final breath. It was known at the time that kitsunes had made the areas neighboring Okobo their habitat. They especially liked to turn into women on rainy days and trick passing men. It said that the slit-mouthed woman Kosuke found out in the rain that day was a kitsune. She was also depicted in the Sayoshigoda picture book by ukiyo-wa artist Hayami Shingyosai. A courtesan is pulled aside by a man walking down the street in the red light district, and when she turns around, her mouth is, once again, cut from ear to ear. The man passes out and promises to never, ever return to the red light district again. Kuchisake-Onna is such a popular urban legend that she's inspired regional variations such as Futakuchi-Onna, the woman with two mouths. And in this one, it said that a large second mouth is on top of her head. And when she asks, "Am I pretty?" if you answer, "Yes, you're pretty," she'll pull apart her head, like the hair on top of her head. She'll pull it apart to reveal the second mouth. And if you answer, "No, you're ugly," then she'll eat you with the second mouth. There is also a yokai named Futakuchi-Onna that made her appearance. Hold on one second. This one's going to take me a second. Alright, bear with me. that made her appearance in the Hyakumonogatari picture book of the Edo period, but this version is unrelated to her, and she is simply a variation of the modern Kuchisake-Onna. There is also a variation in Ehime and Fukushima prefectures called Kuchiwate-Onna, which translates to the broken-mouthed woman. In Ehime prefecture, she is said to ask if she's beautiful, and if you don't answer at all, you get stabbed by a knife. But those who simply hear about this tale, she will appear before you within 3 days. Oops, my bad, homie. So it's kind of like The Ring, and I kind of just cursed you all. I love you anyways, though. You're all amazing. Thanks for not hating me for cursing you. Good luck. I had to, you know, I had to tell you about it. It was interesting. But anyways, in Fukushima prefecture, she supposedly rides around in a red car and stops to ask if her eyes are pretty. Like this. Are my eyes pretty, dearie? And now, Fukushima also had a famous local candy that Kuchiwate-Onna prefers, but it actually, Kuchiwate-Onna, started off as a typo, but the name just kind of stuck anyways. So that's the origin of that one. It literally just started off as a typo, and it just kind of stuck anyways. The story even spread to Korea in 2004, gaining traction with the new generation. She is known over there as Akai Mask Onna, the red masked woman, with the red meant to signify blood. Yet another version has Kuchisake-Onna working with a companion who is a man in a mask. Nope, that's it, just a man in a mask. This version is said to have originated in the Hachioji and Kokubunji areas of Tokyo, but no new information is known about the man, and he remains a mystery. So, they got this man, they brought him in, and they won't even tell us anything about him. What's the deal with that? And this is like Eastern culture, so this is like one of the most popular urban legends over in Japan, and I've always found it very interesting, and I've always thought it was pretty interesting, so I wanted to share it with all of you and see what you thought. And if you wanted to find some more information, there is apparently, I haven't watched it myself, but apparently there's even a movie about Kuchisake-Onna. So if any of you want to go out there and see if you can find the movie and, let us know where we could watch the movie, we'd love to watch that. And, maybe I could like do a review on it for you or something. If anyone can find out where we can, legally acquire that or watch it or whatever, just, let us know. And I have all my information I received for this episode was from an episode of another podcast called Toshiden by Tara A. Devlin. And she was one of the first podcasts I ever listened to back when I first started listening to podcasts. And if you're a big fan of Eastern culture, I would highly recommend it. When you're not watching our podcast, of course, But, if you need something else with a bit more Eastern, it's a good, it's a good one. And she mostly talks about like urban legends and creepypasta and stories like that, But this was episode 1 of the Intern's Oddities from around the world. And this week we were focused on Eastern culture, and we will try to do more of a variety as we go along and do some stuff from all around the world and all sorts of different cultures. Thank you for coming to hang out with us, and we hope to see you again in the future. I hope you enjoyed, and as always, stay uncanny.